Hey everyone, Salena here, Salena Baca Crochet. Have not done one of these in a while, but I'm super excited to be here live for an Ask Me Anything session. Ask me anything about crochet. I might answer some other questions, but don't get crazy, all right? If you guys are watching live, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. And if you have any crochet questions, go ahead and post them and I will get to them as I see them. Now, I did post an Ask Me Anything, or I did have an Ask Me Anything thread in my group. If you're not already part of my group, come on over and join group Salena Baca Crochet. Because I post things like this in there and I'm going to be answering those questions first. So I do want to give a shout out to everyone in my group who took a peek at that and posted a question. I was really excited about those. So those are going to be answered first. After I go through those, we're going to have a fun conversation. And again, I'll answer any questions that are in the comments. All right. Okay. So I'm going from the top down. I'm going to be answering these questions in order. And the very first question that I got was from Margaret. And Margaret asked me a really hard question. I had to think about this one for a long time. Margaret said, what's your favorite crochet project so far? And that answer is always going to change. So if you ask me this question 10 years ago, I gave you a different answer. 5 years ago, last week, I might have given a different answer. So that's always super subjective pertaining to whatever it is that I'm doing. So I thought a lot about it. And I think that my favorite crochet project so far today is probably going to be the weekend blanket wrap that is on the cover of my book that's coming out next week. Shameless shout out to Crochet in a Weekend. I think it's got to be this one. This is probably my favorite project right now for a few reasons. I chose it to go on the cover of my book because I've been really excited about it for a while. This was actually the inspiration for this entire book. It was something that I had a skein of yarn and I really wanted to use it. And I think my kid was homesick and I was like, well, we're watching a movie, I'm going to crochet, right? So while we were watching that movie, I had an idea and it just totally came together and it was this weekend blanket wrap. Now this really is just a giant triangle scarf. And I used a super big hook and that way all the stitches are huge and the fabric's huge and it just feels like a blanket that you can wear in public. So the reason I love that right now is that you're not really trying to match gauge. You're not really trying to have this perfect so many stitches per inch, so many rows has to measure this or that. And it's just this really simple, beautiful fabric. I love that when you're using this giant hook, you're creating this nice, loose, flowy fabric. And I really loved this gray color. A lot of what I wear is gray, as you guys can see. You guys know me. You see me. A lot of what I wear is gray. And so when this came together and it was just this giant triangle that I kind of wrap, you can see that I'm wearing it right here and it is draped in the front, but it's so big that I could wrap it around my shoulders and then tie it. And so it's just a big triangle. I felt really accomplished after I made it. It's a really simple, beautiful stitch pattern. And every single time I wear this, I get tons of compliments. And that felt really good, especially since I used Karen 1 pound? I haven't touched it in a while, so it's one of my favorites, but I might jack up the name a little bit. Karen 1 pound. I think I got it on sale for like $8. So I made this entire shawl for like $8. And again, it's one of my favorite things to wear. Of course, there's tassels on it. So that's my favorite thing right now so far. Ask me again next week. I'll probably tell you something different. But Margaret, thank you so much for that question. I love to have long conversations about things like this. So thank you, my friend. All right, next question is from Fanti, F-A-N-T-I, who is new to the Salena Baca Crochet group and community. And I really like this question that they asked. It is, please give some tips and tricks about Mosaic Crochet. So first and foremost, disclaimer, I do not love color work to crochet myself. I have an appreciation for it. I definitely will change colors in projects. I love to use yarn that's self-striping. I love to change color and make stripes and color blocking and things like that. But when it comes to actual color work and mosaic, not my favorite. It is not my cup of tea, so I am not an expert. So what I will say, I do, but with that said, I have some resources for you because it's something that I wanted to know and it's something I wanted to brush up my skills on. So mosaic is a type of color work. So I'm actually going to drop an article that I put together for the American Crochet Association that goes over different kinds of color work. And that way you understand what mosaic is as in comparison to these other types of color work. So I'll share that with you. But I actually wanted to brush up on my mosaic color work as well. So I purchased this book a while back. It's pretty new. It's called Mosaic Crochet Workshop. I got this on Amazon. I'll post the link below so that way you guys can go and check it out as well. I have not made anything in this book yet. So I have not tried mosaic crochet yet, but I got it because it is a teaching book. And so what I will say is that if you guys are interested in doing mosaic and you're interested in learning it, there's a whole section dedicated to teaching you that I found really, really helpful. I did not pick up yarn and hook yet, and already I just kind of looked through these tutorials and I feel like, oh, I can totally do that. I've done something like that before. It totally makes sense. I feel super confident that not only do I understand what mosaic color work is, but that I can totally do the projects in this book. So again, I'm going to drop the link for this. And I'm also going to give you an article that you can read that is posted at the American Crochet Association. And that way, not only will you have a better understanding for what color work is, but if you really want some tips and tricks from somebody who knows what they're doing, I recommend this. Okay? All right. So thank you so much for that question. All right. The last question, I saved the best for last because it's from my girl, Tammy Peters. I love you, Tammy Peters. And she posted a great question that has more than one part, and it's something that I've had long conversations about in the past. So I'm saving that for last. And before I dive into that, I see so many of you guys are here and you've got lots of posts here. I see Tammy Peters is here. I was just talking about you, lady. So I'm gonna answer your question in just a minute, but I did want to get through everyone here and just say hey and hello and stuff like that. Monica Mercado is here. Denise is here. Tracy Fortner is here. So good to see your face. Adriana's watching. Christina is here from Southern Oregon. Paki is here. Monica Mercado, always so good to see you. Tammy Peters, lady, always so good to see you. Christina, how is my grandbaby? He's doing fantastic. I actually babysat him for a couple hours yesterday. He is 5 months old and he's just a cute little chunky bundle of joy and we just love spending time with him. He's fantastic. Barbara Kelly is here. Gloria's here from Spring, Texas. Anne Maria's watching. Tammy Peters. She says, that's a beautiful one. Are you talking about, I think you're talking about the blanket wrap. I'm going to assume you are, right? That's what I want you to, that's what I want you to be talking about right now. Let's see who else is here. Fatine is here. Angie is here. Paulina, Adalia. Tammy Peters says, I like fluey. I know, I was trying to say fluid and flowy and fluey came out. It's a thing, right? We all totally knew what I was talking about. Yeah, Tammy Peters, 1 pound, Karen 1 pound, and it made that entire blanket wrap, tassels and all. So I was super excited about that. Gloria says, can't wait to get my book. Let me know when it arrives. I hope you totally love it. Peg Palmer is watching. Angie B is here and says, love that shawl. I do too. And so, yeah, so you guys can totally see why I said it's currently my favorite project so far. I think it's great for all the reasons that I just said. Tammy Peters says, I have to be in the right mood to do color work. Yeah, for me, it's not my favorite. Color work is not my favorite because there's a lot of counting. There's a lot of double checking. And that's just not really my favorite. Like, I have to be shut off from the world if I'm going to be doing even a very small colorwork project. So I've got a respect for it and I've got an appreciation for it, but I don't have the patience for it. Sandy's here watching. Deborah is watching. Cindy is watching. Tammy Peters. She says, ooh, I may need to get that. I like books more than YouTube. I like a little bit of both, actually. So sometimes whenever I want to learn something, sometimes it starts with a Google search just to see what's out there. And what really caught my eye about this particular book is that it says that it's a workshop. And I'm like, I like workshops, all right. Because sometimes whenever it comes to a pattern book, it's like, that's awesome, but I've never done it. So I need to learn something before I dive into it. And I thought just by flipping through this book that it did a really good job of teaching me something and then showing me how to apply that so I can make things that I love. So I again, haven't done anything in the book yet, but based on what I've read, it gets my recommendation. Hello, Francis from New Jersey. So good to see you. Tammy, it's always so good to see you. I'm so glad that you're here live. Francis is here with all the peace, loves, and crochets. Peg is saying hey to everyone. Melissa says hello. I'm late. You're not late. I just jumped on live. Unless you knew that I was going to be live. No, I didn't even know I was going to be live. I knew I was going to be live today, but I gave you guys no notification. I'm really good about being sporadic, so it's totally fine. If you guys aren't here on the live, the replay is always just as good. And Patricia's here. Okay, I think I gave a shout out to everybody who's here so far, but if you're still coming in, hey, hello, ask me anything about crochet, and as long as I'm here live, I'll get to you, okay? All right, so the last question, like I said, is from my friend Tammy Peters. And I'm also going to reference a chat that I gave on this. Gosh, when did I give that chat? Back in 2021, but I know I've had this chat lots of times before. It's still, the advice is still, I went back and looked at it. I'm like, yeah, that's still my same advice. Okay. So Tammy Peters says, can you help me find my cro-jo? I seem to lose it every January and February. Yes, lady. Yes. So I've got some advice on this because same thing for me. I mean, my job is crochet and sometimes I'm kind of powering through projects and I'm working on all these things. And sometimes, like for example, I just finished a huge project and I literally didn't crochet anything significant for like a month. I just literally didn't even touch it. I didn't want to crochet. I didn't want to look at yarn. I wanted a break. And now I'm kind of coming out of that. It's, over the last couple weeks, I've been doing, a few things here and there. But I was so glad that you asked this question, Tammy, because it's literally what I do to kind of get back into crocheting things that I love, things that I'm excited about, and kind of get my crochet motivation back. So I've got 3 tips for you, and you guys can do all of these. You can do one of these, and if you have other tips, I'd love to hear them, okay? In no particular order, these are my tips to get your crochet motivation back, all right? Tip number 1, I know you've got a whip pile. I know you do. If you crochet, you've got a pile, whether there's one thing or more in it, of unfinished works in progress. Everyone has them, right? So my first suggestion is to revisit that pile and really look through them, okay? There might be something in there that you're like, I forgot about that. I want to finish it. Then, dive right in. Crochet it's a hobby. It's a passion. It's something that you should feel really good about, something that you want to do, something that you want to visit. So if there's a project in your whip pile that you completely forgot about and you want to work on, by all means, jump right on in on that. That's also a really good time, and this is another conversation. If there are things in there that you're like, I don't like it, I don't like the yarn, I don't like the project, there's something about this that I don't like, take some time maybe frogging that project, right? Sometimes I find just kind of cleaning up, a little bit of housekeeping around the projects that I have, it's motivation for me to want to do something else. So one of those things, either picking up something and completing it from your whip pile, or weeding through your whip pile and, deconstructing those things that you're not going to finish. Either one of those things can be kind of a healthy jump start. So another thing that I like to do to get my crochet motivation back is to try something new in a tiny swatch form, okay? Now, I don't mean swatching like swatch for size or swatch for gauge or anything like that. It doesn't have to be project specific in that sense. So I don't mean create a little swatch like to, you know, to make sure that you're crocheting the perfect sweater. What I mean by crocheting a swatch is learn a new stitch. Maybe there's a stitch that you think is really interesting or that you want to learn or you want to perfect. Try that out. Maybe you want to learn some kind of color work like mosaic. Make a little tiny swatch following the elements of mosaic crochet so that you can kind of get to know it, right? You're not making anything, you're just practicing it on a really small scale. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to work in continuous rounds. Give that a try. So again, anything that you want to try, anything that you want to learn, don't start a project, practice it, okay? Because with all of that practice, you're just going to advance your techniques, you're going to advance your skill, you're going to learn something new, and you don't have to commit to making something, because sometimes the commitment of making something, that's that hindrance that makes us lose our crochet motivation. It's like, I really want to make something, but I only have an hour or two, or, you know, and it's like that, what do I start first? We kind of get, we stop ourselves from doing anything because it's like, I don't know what to do. So learn a stitch or practice a stitch, something like that. Try something new, apply something new. All of those things are really, 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 you know, or do any one of those things on a really, really small, simplistic scale. Don't make anything. And really, that could help you kind of get the inspiration to try something new. Maybe you try a new stitch and you're like, I love this stitch, I have to keep going, and now I want to make a blanket or a sweater or a tote bag or whatever it is that you like to make, because maybe you've learned something new and that's your motivation to start whatever your next project is. All right, and last tip for you, my friend Tammy Peters, that I have. If you want to find your crochet motivation and you're looking for things to help you get there, something I love doing is going through the yarn that I already have. And I mean my stash yarn. So I've got yarn that I think is beautiful against this wall, and I just like to look at it, and sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. It's more kind of my display, maybe sometimes yarn, right? And then I have all of my yarn. You guys can't see, I'm pointing in all these different directions, but I have a closet over there, the yarn closet, and I keep all of my yarn in these clear plastic bins. They're out of the way, I don't always see them. And I do that to kind of keep them fresh and new, right? So sometimes when I am not at all sure what I want to do, I'll go through the yarn that I have. Because again, just like with those whip piles, maybe there's yarn that I'm like, you know, I'm never going to use this, I'm going to de-stash. Or, man, I totally forgot that I even have this. I was so excited when I got it, but I didn't have time to work with it. Let me try a new stitch using this yarn. Or I got this yarn because I wanted to make that tote bag that I loved and I totally forgot about it. Let me go and do that. So maybe just seeing the yarn will help remind you of why you got it or what you think it's best suited for, and maybe that will help you along. Or, side note, another thing that I love to do is if I have a yarn that I love and I'm like, I am using this yarn, I love it, I don't know what to make with it. One of my favorite things to do is to go to Ravelry and search for that yarn and look at all of the projects that people have posted with that yarn. Because sometimes if you're not sure what a yarn is capable of or what to do with it, and you're like, I just got to do something, I think that it's very telling to see what people have already made with it. Because, for example, maybe you have a cotton hemp yarn and you're like, I love this so much, what do people make with it? And if, you know, there are 1,000 projects and 900 of them are tote bags, you may go, all right, people are making tote bags with this. You know, maybe you have this beautiful mandala yarn from Lion Brand, you have this beautiful cake of it, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. And you go and search on Ravelry and you look at all the projects made with that yarn and you see that out of 1,000 projects, 900 of them are shawls. You may go, all right, I'm going to make a shawl with that, right? So it can be really helpful to see what the potential is for that yarn based on the projects people have made with it so far, and that can help kind of kickstart your motivation. So that was a super long answer for you, Tammy, but it's still really just the short version of a conversation that I had. So I'm going to post that as well. So that way you guys can see, or get even more on those 3 things to help get your crochet motivation back. So hope you guys enjoyed those. I only got 3 questions so far, but let me kind of go back through the comments, give some more shout outs, and see if you guys have any crochet questions as long as I'm here. Agita is here. Tammy Peters, she says, I knew you could help. I hope I did help. Let me know what you think about the advice that I gave. I mean, those are things that I do and they help me. But if you guys have any advice about how to get your crochet motivation back, especially if they're tried and true tips, just go ahead and post them. I'd love to see them. Melissa is watching. Tammy Peters, she says, yep, I may need to find something new to learn. Yeah, and sometimes when I'm stuck, trying something new is really exciting. For example, over at the American Crochet Association on YouTube, we've got over 30 stitch tutorials, classic stitches, new and funky stitches, different techniques. So if you just want to learn something quickly, I'm going to suggest that as well, and I'll post the link below. Yeah, so definitely do that. Give that a try. Linda Hepburn is watching. Tammy Peters agrees. Ravelry is such a great resource. It really is. And sometimes you can kind of forget. Maybe if you use it for just one thing, you can forget that it's good for so many different things. And looking for yarn potential or the project potential of certain yarns, that's a fantastic resource that I strongly recommend. Mary is here watching. Tammy Peters, she says, on that note, I think a Warlock wrap needs to be on my hook soon. Man, that's another one of my favorites. I've probably made 10 Warlock wraps. Gosh, that's absolutely one of my favorites. I did use Lion Brand Mandala to make that, but really you could use any yarn that you think would look and feel fantastic. So that's another one that's pretty high on my list of favorite projects. I'm glad you reminded me. Tracy Fortner, she says, do you have a project using Kobu? Lady, yes. I am so glad that you asked. As a matter of fact, I'm going to post a link. In my newest book coming out, this one and the last 1 or 2 books that I have, I made quite a few Kobo projects for these. So yeah, Kobo is a fantastic yarn, especially for things that you wear. That's my opinion. I think that it's really economical. It feels great. It looks great. So yeah, I've created quite a few patterns with that yarn. So I'm going to do a quick search. COBOO. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 projects that you can use with Kobo yarn. I've got a cardigan, a couple tops, a vest. I've got a headband. So yeah, Kobo is a fantastic yarn. And I think I even have more than I've posted here, but I have not posted all of the patterns in this book yet. So more to come, more to come. All right. Tracy Fortner says that she found Kobo on sale. Yeah, if you find already that yarn it's priced really nicely. Where have I seen it? I've purchased it online a few times before. I've also found it in Walmart, and it's a couple bucks for a skein, and you get quite a bit of yarn. And that yarn is, in terms of it just being a shelf yarn, I mean, the look and the feel, it's a cotton bamboo blend, and the colors, you can't go wrong. I highly, highly recommend that yarn. I think it's really fantastic. Again, especially for things that you wear. I mean, you're really just going to be so surprised with how beautiful it looks and how luxurious it feels. So I can't recommend that one enough. Angie B says, all my patterns from you are on Ravelry. Yeah, I love to post my projects or my patterns on Ravelry. I think it's a fantastic resource. Tammy Peters says, I have some hand-dyed alpaca that I may use for a Warlock. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. That's a great idea. If you have a luxury hand-spun, hand-dyed hank of yarn, and you're like, I just don't know what to do with this. If you have one hank, I think it would be a great accessory. And if you have more than one hank, if you have enough, I would definitely recommend something that you can put on your neck or your shoulders. So those are always my go-to with those kinds of projects. So keep us posted on that, Tammy. I'd love to see. And Tammy also says that Kobu has gorgeous drape. I absolutely agree. Angelica's here, and she's got the last comment that I see so far. She says, I made a couple tops with your patterns using Kobu. So nice. Yes, of course you did, Angelica. I remember those. And I was so glad that you posted your projects too, because it's really nice to see that yarn worked up in different designs. So thank you, lady. All right, one more from Barbara. Barbara says, hello there. I'm the lady that made 23 of the bandana scarves that I took to London for all family and friends. They loved them. I'm making 9 blankets for each grandkid now. As I do them, I think of each child and their talents. I like your new scarf weekend, the weekend blanket wrap. Thank you so much. And you know what? I do remember that, Barbara. Yes, you made the bandana scarves. And thank you for posting those as well. Yeah, the bandana scarf is another super fun project that I really, really love. It's V-shaped. And so it's really easy for you. It's really delicate and really easy to kind of lay in the front. And then, you know, it kind of hangs around the front as well. So it's not big and bulky. It's really easy to wear. It really highlights yarn very nicely. So you can't make a wrong choice in terms of yarn color. Sometimes that can happen. You know, the colors can kind of get lost in the pattern, or the pattern kind of, you know, you can't really see because of the colors chosen. But yeah, that's another really fun project to work up. So I'm glad you liked it. Whew. All right. And on that note, I went through all of your questions. I hope you guys got something useful out of it. I really enjoy doing these Ask Me Anything sessions. It's really fun to do these. So if you're not already part of my group, come on over and join group Salena Baca Crochet, because I typically post those Ask Me Anything threads there. And then I love to answer them with live videos like this. So it's just a fun way for this to feel like a community and for us to keep the conversation going. So I appreciate it. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. Peace, love, crochet. See you next time. Bye-bye.